This is Countdown to Economic Collapse, February 26, 2012. I'm David John Sponheim, running for president under America's Third Party. Folks, our republic and our democracy has been bought and sold. What we have is a group of elitists that are constantly trying to get their extra money, like Lockheed Martin and all the military-industrial complex. We see people trying to constantly control the political nature of our nation by simply paying for lobbyists to control legislation and to get tax breaks for people who are wealthy, corporations like ExxonMobil that don't pay any taxes at all. So we are generally seeing an erosion of what we thought was a republic and what we thought could be a democracy. Now, if you're like me, you're wondering, that's not what I was taught in school. I was taught that my vote counted. I was taught that maybe I might have a word to say to my legislator and they may actually do something to change. Well, none of that's true. That's all just a lie. We have been led to believe, like sheep being taken to the slaughter, that our nation is free and democratic. There is not even an ounce of democracy in this country when our words are not heard by our public officials. And they are only pandering to the public to get reelected so they can continue to do the bidding of corporations and rich personal moneyed interests. Well, the problem is getting worse. The people that are controlling our government are actually getting money freely given to them by the Federal Reserve. These are the big banks, the too big to fail companies that get whatever they want. And that money goes right into their pockets, and they in turn take that money and take it to the bank. And then they invest in the stock market. And they don't invest in business, they don't invest in jobs, and what we see today is an erosion of the job market. Now, Barack Obama has had 3 years to create some federal jobs, and all he can do is promise to create more road worker jobs and teacher jobs. That's not a solution to America's problem. We've got 26 million people unemployed right now, and more that's not even seen by our current statistical analysis. We've got a huge problem looming in that our country cannot continue to manufacture or grow in size, and the capitalist economy that we have today is beginning to feel the pressure of fake printed money, people hoarding money, we call that liquidity traps, and ultimately deteriorating the very structure of our government because it can't keep financing this disaster. So, they have to come up with a reason that our dollar is going to collapse. So that what they're going to do is they're going to try to collapse the dollar. Now, there are people like Ron Paul that believe we should have a gold backing to the dollar, and that in turn would give people who have lots of debt a ride. They wouldn't have to pay back their debt. So that's not a good thing because that's going to ultimately destroy the very fabric of our economy, the value of our dollar. So I believe what we need to do is modify our currency to a certain degree. That means possibly printing up a new denomination of one particular bill, and then that would automatically shrink the monetary system that we currently use in our country, because remember, 77% of the currency, the US currency, is overseas. So we would automatically see a change in the value of our dollar and it would go up. Now, another altercation is to get rid of the Fed. Ending the Fed would immediately begin to restore sanity to our economic outlook. We are allowing this group of people, private bankers, to print up money recklessly and give it out to, like I said, big bankers and special interests and too big to fail companies. They get that money for less than 1% interest. And then they take that money and play in the stock market. That's why the stock market's nearly pushing the 13,000 Dow Jones ceiling, pinching the envelope, so to speak. It hasn't done it yet, but it's preparing to. Well, that's not an indication anymore of how our economy is doing. You look at the real indications, you see the jobs disappearing in your area. You see outsourcing continue to go on. You see companies like JCPenney announcing that they just had an $89 million loss last quarter. Or Kohl's, an 8% drop in earnings for last quarter. These are the real indications of our economy. People aren't spending money. The entire economy is coming to a grinding halt. And now they've come up with a different solution to take our mind off of the dollar, or the shrinking value of the dollar. What they're doing is they're talking about Syria all the time. And Hillary Clinton in some fashion or other, has her mind made up that we are supporting Arab Spring. Check this out.
Of the Russian and Chinese governments, they must understand they are setting themselves against the aspirations not only of the Syrian people, but of the entire Arab Spring, the Arab awakening.
Now, it has never been our policy to back Arab Spring in America. Where she's getting this deluded thought, I have no idea. But she's made a lot of other mistakes. She said that we were in Afghanistan because they attacked us. This is not the kind of mistake a Secretary of State needs to make internationally. We are not supporting Arab Spring as a national policy. We have no intention to go into Syria, yet they're contriving a reason to fight yet another war. You see what these Democrats have done? They create the very groundwork for war. And we're looking at 3 nations, possibly more, turning into Islamist states. Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, possibly Yemen. All of these states were not Islamist prior to this Arab Spring. And now they're looking to Syria to take over Syria in the same way they have the other countries. What's really behind this is an effort by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to control every single world economy. Every country that doesn't have a central bank with this group at the IMF and the World Bank, they are the ones that are being targeted, like Syria. This entire plan has a kind of a sense that it's a house of cards, and they keep propping it up with new loans. Tim Geithner is asking for more money from the EU to back up any additional firewall funds from the central banks. So they're asking the EU to put together 500 billion euros just to support their current disaster in Greece and the coming disaster in Italy and Spain. Well, Tim Geithner is essentially an arm of this secret society group of people I've been talking about. He's the president of the Pilgrim Society, the military arm of the Knights of Malta. Now, this sounds a little weird to you, I'm sure, if you're an American, you're wondering, wait a second, he's our Secretary of Treasury. He's also wearing a lot of other hats for a lot of other organizations around the world. Now, I've had it with the Bilderberg Group and the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission dictating policy for the past 50 years, and look where it's led us. Our nation has never been more vulnerable. We need to start detaching and protecting our economy and protecting our business interests. And right now, our country is doing very little to do that. Very little to foster growth within our country in small business. All of that will change when I become your president. I am all about offering new opportunity, low-cost education, and an affordable way for this nation to get by in these coming difficult times. Our global economy is shrinking. Capitalism needs a little bit of impetus to keep going. We can't just rely on expanding frontiers and other foreign markets. It doesn't work that way. So I have an intention to stimulate industry by sparking innovation and developing an infrastructure bank, offering 2% loans to businesses that really need them and that need that money to survive right now. This infrastructure bank would be a very simple, small bank. It would not be a central bank and would simply offer 2% loans out to people that really can get those loans paid back, that show promise. Now, all of these concepts and our homestead renewal plan to create millions of jobs across the country are part of our comprehensive plan at America's Third Party. If you haven't been convinced that a third party is necessary after hearing what I have said so far, then you're probably not going to vote for me in the coming election. I understand that. But bear in mind, you will be to blame for the coming economic downturn. Because you're not willing to shift gears and open up your mind to a third party, a uniting centrist party, you will be the reason our economy collapses. I want you all to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing enough to help support democracy and our republic? Am I doing enough to support what I believe America should stand for? And then decide whether your vote for a third party is going to happen or not. In any event, I urge you to support me. If you click the link below right now and show your support, become a delegate, you will ultimately have a hand in creating the opportunity for me to get on the ballot. That opportunity is all we've got right now. I'm perhaps the only candidate that truly understands the dilemma and how to get out of it. And I believe that I can show the way to other people who can lead by example. So all of you, think about what you're doing and where our nation is going, and ask yourself, has the two-party system survived this long to help people or to help themselves? Are they not helping the special interests that get them reelected? I see no help for the average American. We're getting poorer and the rich people are getting richer. And that top 1%, they can go ahead and pretend like they're doing something by giving, philanthropy, but they're not really doing enough to help the bottom 99% of America get ahead and get a fair education and opportunity. So I urge all of you to think third party and vote for me in the upcoming election in 2012. I'm David John Sponheim, and I support this message.
ATP, you and me.